Following is some general guidance in reading of the California Commercial Code, which is one of 29 separate codes by name that contains California's statutes. The fourth one alphabetically is the Commercial Code, and all 29 of these codes have general provisions that are applicable to reading and interpreting that particular code sections. So the following are some selected general provisions from the California Commercial Code. Section 1101 says that this code may be cited as the Uniform Commercial Code. Section 1102 says that the division applies to a transaction to the extent that it is governed by another division of the Commercial Code. Section 1103 says that the code must be liberally construed and applied to promote its underlying purposes and policies, which are 1. To simplify, clarify, and modernize the law governing commercial transactions. 2. To permit the continued expansion of commercial practices through custom, usage, and agreement of the parties. And 3. To make uniform the law among the various jurisdictions. Additionally, in Section 1103, it says, unless displaced by the particular provisions of this code, the principles of law and equity, including the law merchant and the law relative to capacity to contract, principal and agent estoppel fraud, misrepresentation, duress, coercion, mistake, bankruptcy, and other validating or invalidating cause supplement the provisions of the Commercial Code. Section 1104 says that the code is a general act intended as a unified coverage of its subject matter. No part of it is deemed to be impliedly repealed by subsequent legislation if the construction can reasonably be avoided. Section 1105 says that if any provision of the code is deemed invalid, then it doesn't invalidate the remaining code sections. Section 1106 provides that in the Commercial Code, unless the statutory context otherwise requires, words in the singular include the plural. Those in the plural include the singular, and words of any gender also refer to any other gender. Section 1108 says that this chapter modifies, limits, and supersedes the Federal Electronic Signatures in Global and National Commerce Act at 15 U.S. Code Section 7001 et sec, except that nothing in this chapter modifies, limits, or supersedes Section 7001 subdivision C, or authorize electronic delivery of any of the notices described in Section 7003 subdivision B. Section 1201 says unless the context requires otherwise, words or phrases defined in the section or in the additional definitions contained in other divisions of this Commercial Code, then it has the meaning so stated. Section 1204 says that a person gives value for rights if the person acquires them, 1, in return for a binding commitment to extend credit or for the extension of immediately available credit, 2, as security for or in total or partial satisfaction of a pre-existing claim, 3, by accepting delivery upon a pre-existing contract for purchase, or 4, in return for any consideration sufficient to support a simple contract. Section 1205 says that whether a time for taking an action required by the Commercial Code is reasonable depends upon the nature, purpose, and circumstances of the particular action. And an action is taken reasonably if it is taken at or within the time agreed, or if no time is agreed at or within a reasonable time. Section 1206 provides that whenever this code creates a presumption with respect to a fact or provides that a fact is presumed, then the trier of fact is required to find the existence of the fact unless and until evidence is introduced that supports a finding of its non-existence. Section 1301 says that when a transaction bears a reasonable relation to the state of California and also to another state or nation, that the parties may agree that the law either of this state or of the other state or nation must govern the rights and duties. Section 1304 says that for every contract or duty within the Commercial Code that imposes an obligation of good faith is required in its performance and enforcement of it. Finally, Section 1305 says that the remedies provided by the Commercial Code must be liberally administered to the end that the aggrieved party may be put in as good a position as if the other party had fully performed. But neither consequential or special damages or penal damages may be had except if specifically provided in the Commercial Code or by other rule of law. And finally, any right or obligation declared by this code is enforceable by an action, unless the provision declaring it specifies a different and limited particular effect.